Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Bahar Jara. I'm the Director for Global Development and Humanitarian Assistance at Premise. Today, I'm here to talk about high-frequency pulse, so how we're fusing human-centered approach and ground truthing to advanced and the use of GenAI to advance mission intelligence and humanitarian response. But before I do that, perhaps I could just give you a bit of introduction at what Premise is. Organizations have hundreds of ways to sense our world. And as we have heard in the past 2 days, right, we have a way to understand what's happening through satellite imagery, through drones, social listening, or through different beacons. But for some things, we really have to just be there, whether it is to map an aid corridor, or to just understand what people feel, fear, want, and need. And that's where Premise comes in. And to do that, we have developed an app that anyone with a smartphone and some access to internet can download, and then they can share local insight in return for making some money. Over the past 10 years, we've been able to build a global network of about 6 million or so contributors that have given us the ability to be in about 144 countries that respond to different tasks or these gig economy tasks in our app or marketplace in 39 languages. And over time, we've been able to get about 170 million or so responses. This global community gives us, one, access to literally any place, and even in those that are non-permissive environments, but also gives us that ability to have persistent understanding or access to information at a very local level. Since we're a gig economy-based app, we have this system of incentives, or this framework of incentives ingrained into it. And this allows us really to be fully digital and fully remote when it comes to sensing what's happening around the world. And what that in return helps is really to be able to get access to information at a local, hyper-local level really fast across countries in a very scalable manner and of course, cost-effective. Premise contributors, they can perform different data collection tasks. They can respond to sentiment surveys. They can go and map out their local communities, or they can go door to door, shop to shop, and be able to map pricing or goods inside a space. We now, with the exponential growth of AI, have the ability to also send prompts to our users, so where they can record themselves and give us the ability to have qualitative data at quantitative scale. So Premise, some 10 years ago, was built to actually help consumer product good companies. Premise had access to all these low and middle income countries and had the ability to turn to these individuals living in places where organizations or these corporates needed data to understand where their products may be, if anyone buying them, what the price is. This included likes of Coca-Cola, Heineken, etc. We're able to go to every mom and pop shop, the traditional trades where you don't actually have data, to understand if Coke is sitting in a shelf, if it's running out, if that little mom and pop shop is running out of shelves, right? If Pepsi and Coke were sitting in the same refrigerator. And that way so that they can guide their market expansion. So we took all of that innovation and develop use cases for the global development space. And I'll take you through a very quick tour through some of the use cases that we've had over time in a bespoke manner with different global actors or UN agencies. So here, this is one right at the outset of the war in Ukraine. WHO was able to leverage Premise network in frontline oblasts to perform needs assessments around health issues. Right after the Cyclone Freddy hit Mozambique, we're able to go on the ground to understand what the damage assessment may be and what is the impact that people are feeling at their homes. Do they have shortage of electricity? Do they have shortage of water or water? Do they have access to roads and facilities to seek help? We supported UNICEF in understanding polio vaccine hesitancy, understanding how people are dealing with misinformation and whether that's impacting their behavior in accepting or not accepting polio vaccinations. We've helped right after the US pulled out of Afghanistan, where there was a flux of policies coming in. We've helped USAID map out education opportunities for girls. Even though there's policies in place, we're able to go visit those facilities, not we, the local contributors, and provide us with insights as to what actually is going on, and what are parents thinking, and what are the tools that they have at place or disposal to make sure that girls are getting access to education. The same as what we did for consumer product goods. We've had the ability and we've supported the World Bank across many countries around fertilizer pricing or stable food pricing in this case in Papua New Guinea. Over time, local contributors, those people living in places where we needed data from or the World Bank needed, they were able to go and track prices of 22 staple goods so that the World Bank could better measure inflation in near real time and guide policy interventions. The same concept of going and understanding what the pricing and product availability may be in local markets. We've done the same, but for the aid diversion detection and leakage into markets. Department of State, USAID, wanted to know whether aid is going to intended recipients. And if that is leaking out into the market, someone is making money, someone is taking those goods away from. So this was a way to monitor and provide insights into that. Other use cases dealt with mapping school functionality during climate change events in Mali, or mapping cattle transhumance networks in Cameroon, or really running on-demand research for the likes of The Economist, especially after major events in those countries where data was not available. So, as I said, my goal for here was to talk about how we're fusing this global network of ground truth access with GenAI to help better drive mission intelligence, but also humanitarian response. We know that most of the missions that work, they are either in conflict or non-permissive areas. And the traditional monitoring tools, they don't allow they're not keeping up to pace. With the global aid budgets being slashed and the physical footprints reducing immensely, we are having issues as a community to be in places where we can understand what the needs of communities may be. This, in return, is allowing us to be in a place where data, information is coming late because these conflicts are fluid. These situations change faster than the data come in. But now, with GenAI, we have so many opportunities. But as was spoken all around in the past 2 days, there's a lot of noise. So how are we doing with that? We built a multimodal methodology where we deploy the human sensor network through premise to guide, to provide early warning, early signaling of issues, but also to help verify and triangulate whatever GenAI may be able to. So we've built 3 tools. Well, we have at the center of it, we have premise, and then we've built an AEGIS, which is an AI engine that helps scrapes data from the publicly available information, structured data set, and turns it into insights using triangulation and early signaling that's coming directly from the communities. How is this loop working? So We run longitudinal surveys, sentiment surveys with communities all around, in places like DRC, etc. And then, in the meantime, this listening layer is also aided by AEGIS that's scraping the publicly available information. As that is being triangulated, any anomalies go back to the communities which verify those anomalies. And that way, we're getting a sense or greater sense or clarity when it comes to ground truth. We've taken this methodology and we've deployed it for AEGIS for humanitarian response. So we took the core multi-sectoral needs assessment questionnaires that the UN clusters were running to better understand what are those needs of communities in crisis countries. We reduced them into surveys or questionnaires that were easy to digest for communities in these crisis countries, and we ran them longitudinally. In the meantime, AI was helping us through scraping of social media and publicly available media build context around the information that these local communities were offering. And in this way, we're able to take, to run this in 10 countries and really be able to build a huge, like a baseline of humanitarian needs across these countries. So to date, and I'll leave this with you, this is my last slide, we've been able to receive 703,000 responses to individual questions from communities around these 10 crisis countries. We've looked into 65,000 media, verified media, and about 750,000 social media signals. Using all of that together, we've been able to build a strong resource that is in high frequency, in near real time, that goes beyond what the legacy monitoring tools have allowed, in the past, when they took a year at a time to provide this set of insights. Thank you, and I'll be happy to chat with anyone that has questions after.